na na na. Na 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 oh. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Ay na 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 na. Na 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 na. Ay na 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 na. Na na na. Shabbos, everyone. Good Shabbos, good Shabbos. It's so beautiful to see so many of you here with us so early at the beginning of the service as we welcome Shabbat, and we welcome this unique Shabbat, Shabbat of the Child. Such an honor to be with Chazan Shechter as we lead the services this evening, and so we invite you to bring your heart and bring your sense of connection also into the deeper place, the place where Higalena, and the power of Higalena, which means to reveal. Reveal, Ufros Chavivi Alai. Gale, Gale, Gale. Reveal, reveal, reveal.
Gale, 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 no Ufros Chavivi, Chavivi Alai. Gale, 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 no Ufros Chavivi, Chavivi Alai. Ezukat Shilomecha, Shilomecha, Shilomecha. Ezukat
שירו לאדוני שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני ברכו שמו, בעשרו מיום ליום ישועתו. Ay alay 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 Hey, nine, 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 hey, la la la, ay la 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 Oh, my night, yeah, oh, night, night, hey, night, night, oh, did I, hey, 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 yeah, night, night, hey, night, hey, night, night, yeah, night, 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 hey, night, night. Please rise if you're able. Feel your feet on the ground. Psalm 29. As we rise for Mizmor LeDavid, bring your voice from the depths to Shabbos Kodesh.
Mizmor LeDavid, Mizmor LeDavid, Haful Adonai Be'edim, Haful Adonai Kavod, Haful Adonai Kevam Shemo Haful Adonai Bagat Kodesh, Kol Adonai Alamayim El HaKadorim, Adonai Hamayim Rabim, Kol Adonai Batorah, Kol Adonai Behadar, Kol Adonai Shover Arazim, Vaishaber Adonai Et Arzei Habanon, Vayakimei Kemoegel Lebanon, Lesirion Kemo Enveim, Kol Adonai Chotzev Labotesh, Kol Adonai Yachil Midbar, Yachil Adonai Midbar Kaddish, Kol Adonai Cholel Hayalot, Vayechesov Ye'amot, Uvehechalo, Kulo Ovekavod, Adonai Lama Yashav Yeshiv, Adonai Melech Leolam, Adonai Oz Le'ama Yitain, Adonai Yivarim Et Amo V'Shalom.
As we stand together, feel your feet on the floor and gently bend the knees and meet the ground. And before sitting in your chair, if you have been standing, if you're already seated, bring to mind the memory of the holy, the first thing that arises for you when a holy memory, an association with a holy memory. Bring that into the space, if you would, invite it in whatever way, shape, and form it appears as we chant the words in the Anabakoach prayer, with koyach, with strength, with love. Help us to remember that which is most sacred, most our ultimate concern, that which is Kaddish. Mystery, holy memories. Yachid ge'ei le'am chafenei zochrei 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 kedusha secha yachid ge'ei le'am chafenei zochrei 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 kiddushatecha. Now light, 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 la la la, oh, 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 So as we prepare for Lecha Dodi, I invite you, if you're comfortable, to close your eyes now for 2 minutes. 1 minute for Zachor and another minute for Shamor. 2 minutes, each one a candle, as it were, lit into a long day and a long week. And so into the silence, I invite you with each breath to feel the support that is available from Shabbat and from the extra dimension that Shabbat offers, to slow down. And with each exhale, each vayinafash, to tap into the cosmic release that is also trust. Breathing in support. And exhale, release. Inhale, support. Exhale, release. And for another 30 seconds, gently inhaling support and becoming aware of how much is available at this moment in front of you, above you, behind you, beneath you, within you. And whenever you're ready, if you feel called to open your eyes, slowly finding your way back to the visual space that we share in the Zoom space. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה כי היא מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה סוף מעשה בשמדינה לך דודי לקראת קלה בני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה בני שבת נקבלה
מקדש מלך עיר מלוכות קומי צהיבי תוכפיך רב שבט בעמק הבכה והוא יחמול עלייך חמלה לך אדוני לקראת קלה בני שבת נקבלה לך אדוני לקראת קלה בני שבת נקבלה
לבשי בגדי תפארתך עמי על יד בן ישי בית הלחמי קרבה אל נפשי נפשי גאלה לך דודי לקראת קלה בני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה בני שבת נקבלה
התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, 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 שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני אלייך אבא, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פרש שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, בני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פרש שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פרש שבת Shalom, Ateres Bahalom.
Nice people.
Gam v'simcha u'v'tzala, toch emnei am segula, bo ichala Shabbat malka. Chadodi Hayarai Likraskala Hayarai Penei Shabbat Penei Shabbat Penei Shabbat Nekabe Lo.
At this moment of open doors and open hearts and open avenues for healing, opening the door for those in this community who are in need of healing and those who are known by this community who are in need of healing, and especially on the Shabbat of the Child to lift up all of those children who need healing. So I invite you to write the names of those who come to you at this moment into the chat area, as well as finding the names that will be on the screen in front of you as well, and include them in your healing prayer. May the one who blessed our ancestors, mothers, and fathers bring healing in body, heart, mind, and spirit for all of those whom we have brought into this sacred container. Anaelna, Anaelna, Rifanala, Anaelna, Anaelna, Rifana. May they be healed, and let us all say, Amen.
Amen.
Shabbat Shalom, beautiful friends. Good Shabbos. Good Shabbos. To you, Chazan Shachter. Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.
I could get used
Good
to
Shabbos.
davening with you in the same space again. I'm just saying. Last week was really beautiful, and it's back in the same space. In a moment, we're going to invite a lot of whoever is here for the first time. We're going to invite you to say your name and maybe a little bit about where you're from and maybe what brought you here tonight. If you're here for the first time, we also wonder what brought you here and who brought you here tonight. That'll be in a moment. But first, we're going to move to some very brief announcements about what's coming up this weekend and in the week ahead that might be of resource to each and every one of you. So our announcements for you. This entire weekend, of course, is our second annual Shabbat of the Child. It is dedicated to lifting up the issue of child maltreatment and child abuse, and how we might both know, but might deal with it as a community broadly construed, and also how we might prevent it. And so this entire weekend will be have wonderful programming, important programming, and especially bringing your attention to tomorrow evening's panel discussion with our very own Romemu member, Michelle Esrick, who who made a remarkable film on the life of Daryl Hammond, the comedian. And we'll be joined by both Michelle and Daryl and the world-renowned expert on trauma, Dr. Bessel van der Kolk. That's tomorrow evening at 7:30. We hope that all of you will join us. Tomorrow, on Sunday morning as well, we'll have a workshop with Dasi Berkowitz, the author of Becoming a Soulful Parent, on how to work with, right, not only the negative, but also to prevent all manner of child maltreatment by celebrating and giving resources and tools to parents. That'll be at 10 o'clock for parents, and then caregivers 11:15. And then on Sunday evening, April 11th, we'll have a panel on cultivating resilience, empowerment, support, and protection with these wonderful partners representing partner organizations like Aleinu and Chavru Institute. That'll be Sunday night, April 11th, this Sunday night. In general, in our community, we have April 23rd will be the Romemu Shabbat home hosting. So that is in 2 weeks. And we look forward to people coming to that. It'll be an amazing evening of connection with other Romemu members. The deadline for RSVPing is April 13th, which is, I guess, this coming Tuesday. Many of you have received the application for the Foundations program, which we just launched. It's a very intimate and immersive experience in some of the principles of a neo-Hasidic elevated Jewish life, what we consider to be the lineage of Rabbi Zalman Schachter Shalomi Alav Shalom, our great teacher. And so the deadline for that is April 14th, and let us know if you are participating. Our Romemu Gala is, believe it or not, about 6 weeks out on May 25th. Save the evening from 7 to 8 p.m. as we honor Karen Goldstick and Marsha Meisland, two incredible lay leaders within our community. We'll have our very own Chazan Schechter and her Pharaoh's Daughter band joining us, as well as Manny Batankin and the comedian Modi. It should be an evening to remember. Please save the date. Lots happening this week. This coming Monday night, Ilana Brody's B'Shem Hashem, which has been such an important part of so many of your experience this last year. Her beautiful song of healing will be joined by other remarkable musicians and prayer leaders, including our very own Chazan Schechter. And I will be giving some words of teaching about the new month of ER, which is coming. That's this coming Monday. And then, of course, Yom HaAtzmaut programming with the JCC, Israel Independence, plus the Israeli-Palestinian Joint Memorial Day ceremony, which is also this coming week on Tuesday, April 13th, and blowing your mind during the counting of the Omer, the Womer, that is also happening this week as well. So check that out. Tomorrow, Parshat Shemini, we'll have a special open book that is adult only at 9 a.m. The matter will be quite serious and important for us to be learning together. And tonight, after services, there will be a sing-along with Josh Ehrlich, and who else is doing it?
Lila.
Lila, right? Lila and Josh are going to be doing it tonight, immediately following their services. Okay, those were a lot of announcements, but I'm so happy that we made people aware of these wonderful resources that are happening this week. We're going to send you off now into a breakout room. Some of you might be going, oh no, really, breakout room? It's just 4 minutes, 4 minutes of connection, and it's Zoom friendly, so you can do what you want and turn it on, turn it off. But we hope that you'll stay connected as you go into these breakout rooms. An opportunity to meet with other members of the community or those who are just here tonight. For some of you, you've told us that it's one of the highlights of your week, just to be able to be in kind of an intimate gathering, not in front of 200 and some odd people, but just with 3 others. So we're going to send you into these breakout rooms, and we have a question for you. When you're in the breakout room, please say your name and maybe where you're from. And if you can, just tell us which child on this Shabbat of the child that you're bringing with you tonight. That child could be your own inner child. It could be a child that is, a grandchild or a friend's child, or just it could be someone from the past that you'd like to bring with you tonight. Please share that at whatever level you'd like with the people that are in your breakout room. What child is appearing to you tonight, and how will you share that presence with those who are in your breakout room? So I invite you to spend a couple of minutes with one another. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. hope that you brought various children as you're coming back into the room, and that you brought maybe someone else's children, the ones that they shared with you, the images of past, present, and maybe even future children, inner children, maybe even some of the ones who run up and down the aisles at Romemu and in other places and will one day again soon, God willing. So into this space, we invite you, if you're here for the first time, we would love, love, love to hear what it is that brought you here tonight. And if you could chat in the chat area, that would be lovely. Maybe someone here could begin telling us what brought you here tonight and your name and where you're from into the chat area, and we'll just call it out. So it looks tonight, looks tonight like there's no one here for the first time. That's weird. I kind of see some people that I've never seen before. Oh, look at this. Asher Chaim said that Richard Gedoldig's dad is on with us. Welcome, Richard Gedoldig's dad. Great to have you. Let's see who else is here. Oh, shout out to Irv. Thank you, Asher Chaim. Anyone else here? Or maybe there's some people here for the first time, Chazan Shachter, that don't like to chat in the chat area. They're in focused meditation and worship right now. And so they're just deeply, deeply in the kind of inner space. And we're going to honor that in a moment. If anybody here would like to say hello for the first time, the chat will remain open for another 30 seconds. And in the interim, I'm just going to keep scrolling through to see if some people that I've never seen before are here, and we can just say hi. Let's see. Let's see. Alan is new-ish. Okay, Alan. What brought you here tonight, Alan? Let's see. I wonder where Alan is. Oh, beautiful. Okay. So the chat area is becoming a bit of a schmooze, which is a good thing. And I wish, right? So I wish and can't wait. And I can almost taste it. It's right there at the tip of my tongue that we'll all be in the sanctuary again in some way, very soon, in a safe way. And in the interim, all of you who are here for the first time, we welcome you, whether you wrote your name in or not. Thank you for being here with us tonight, especially on this Shabbat of the Child. And if you have the capacity, if you have the ability to stand for the Baruch Hu, the moment of calling to prayer and community that brings us in to Ma'ariv, the evening prayers, I invite you to rise as Chazan Shachter and myself bring in the Baruch Hu.
Yai dai da dai 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 dai. Hi ya dai 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 ya 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 ya. Hi ya 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 dai ya. Hi ya dai 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 ya. Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamevorach leolam va'ed.
Yai dai 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 yai 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 yai. Hi yai 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 yai. Hi yai yai. Hi yai yai. Hi yai 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 yai.
Maybe seated Luchat Shechina. Shemidvaram Mariva Ravi Mechachma Botach Hashavim Mutvuna Mishanaitim. מלך חיה וקיימת, תמיד תמלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוכה את שכינה, המרהיבת אבים. היי היי נאי 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 Diddy na 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 na, diddy na na, diddy na 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 na.
אהבת עולם בית ישראל עמך אהבת תורת מצוות חוקים ומשפטים אותנו לימדת מכיר אדוני אלוהינו ושכבנו ממנו נצליח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד כי הם חיינו לאורך ימינו והם נגע יומם ולילה באהבתך לא תסיר ממנו לעולמים ברוכה את שכינה אוהב עמו ישראל Yay, yay, da, da, yay, 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 yay. Hi, yay, 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 yay. Hi, yay, yay, hi, yay, 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 yay. Hi, yay, nay, 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 nay. Hi, yay, 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 yay. Hi, yay, yay, hi, yay, yay. With love, with love, with love, with love, with love, we learn to listen. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך וכל לבבך, love the source of life. Let it emerge from your deep listening, a love that is a responsive love for all that your heart is in, with all of your energies. ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה, אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם. בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לעוז על ידיך, והיו לטוטבות בין עיניך, וכסבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובאיש עריך. We continue with the second paragraph reminding us of the importance of our actions. Remember day and night. והיה אם שמות ישמעו אל מצוות אשר אנוכי מת. ויאמר אדוני משה לאמור דבר אל בני ישראל ואמרת עליהם יעשו להם ציצית. הגנתי בידיהם לדורותם ונתנו על ציצית. הגנה ותלכם ואת לכם לציצית. וריסם עושה וזכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני ועשיתם עושה ולא תסורו. אחרי דבבכם יהיה אחרי עיניכם אשר אתם זונים אחריהם למען תסגרו. אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. באמונה כל זאת we have faith, especially in the night, that we will one day sing a song of freedom and liberation with all of our brothers and sisters. Hilos le'el elyon baruch uvach, Moshe u'Miriam uvnei Yisrael lechanu shira, v'simecha rabah, malchusecha ruvanecha, no, simcha rabah v'yamu chulam, mi chamocha, Ba'elim Adonai mi kamocha, Nadar b'kodesh, Nahara seilo sosef elel, Malchusecha, Reuvanecha b'kayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, Zeli, Anu v'yameru, Adonai imloch, Le'olam va'ed.
נאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגואלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני קהל ישראל השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים ופרוס עלינו צוקת שלומך ותקננו בעצה טובה מלפניך והושיענו למען שמך הושיענו למען שמך פרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, please create and bring us a canopy of peace that all children can live underneath and be in peace. Baruch atah Adonai haporei sukat shalom. Guard their going out and coming in with life, peace forever and now. V'yal kol amo Yisrael, v'yal kol yoshvei tevel, v'yal Yerushalayim.
Please rise if you're able. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותיהם בישראל ובני ישראל עושים לכל העם Amin. Asa Adonai es Hashamayim yes Haaretz U'ayom Hashavei Shabbos Vayinafash.
Yitkadav yitkadash me rabba. Yamad v'achirutei v'yamlech malchutei b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayetecho beit Yisrael b'gala b'gala uv'zman kariv yimmeru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevorach li'olam yomei omaya yitbarach.
Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbar v'yitroma v'yitnasei v'yitada v'yitale v'yitalal shmei de kudisha
Brichu.
leila mineko birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran be'olma and let us say.
Amen.
So we invite you into this silent Amidah. You can bring the child that you brought with you into the Baruch Hu moment, as well as finding this beautiful, beautiful image that will be placed on the screen, the traditional Amidah, or any of your own words as we prepare this evening to receive Shabbat more fully.
but we'll build a world of love. Hesed, a world of loving kindness. Shalom for all around the globe. Chazak, Chazak, Beni Chazek. Chazak, Chazak, Beni Chazek. So we are asking for protection from you, our family, close and wide. The strength you teach us, we will carry on and forever be our guide. Chazak, Chazak, Beni Chazek. 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 Chazak, Chazak, Beni Chazek.
A number of summers ago, as a faculty member of a prestigious adult leadership program, I found myself on an early morning Starbucks line with a member of the program. We introduced ourselves, and hearing that her husband had joined her for the program, I innocently asked her where he was that morning and whether he'd be joining us for the morning prayers and for the classes. She said no, he was up already, but he wasn't going to be coming to anything because he had already made his way into town for an annual meeting that takes place for those individuals who happen to own sports teams. I innocently thought, oh, sports teams, maybe a local baseball team or a small football team. I don't know. Like, what do I know from sports teams? And so I innocently said, again, what team does your husband own? And she said, oh, the Minnesota Vikings. Without missing a beat, I said, wow, what happened with Adrian Peterson? The woman shrugged awkwardly, and I was silent. For those of you who don't know who Adrian Peterson is, or maybe don't know the reference here, even if you know him, he was and is an American football running back. He's a football player who is widely considered to be one of the greatest football players of all time. In 2014, Peterson, who was then playing for the Minnesota Vikings, he missed essentially the entire season that year when he was indicted on charges of reckless or negligent injury to a child. He had used a switch, a long, thin, flexible branch that is used in corporal punishment to discipline one of his children, who was at the time just 4 years old. The boy suffered cuts and bruises to his legs, on his buttocks, and even on his scrotum. Huge welts. A Minnesota doctor saw the marks and reported them on behalf of this 4-year-old. This gesture, reporting to the authorities, the willingness to speak out on behalf of this little boy, was of course a moral obligation, but it's not an obvious moral choice. It wasn't for that doctor, and unfortunately for most of us. In a nationwide survey that was conducted exactly 1 year ago by the New York Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children, the nation's oldest child protection agency, that survey found that large percentages of Americans report that they were unlikely to confront a parent or tell child protection officials if they see a parent excessively spanking or physically punishing a child. Unlikely to confront, unlikely to report. The survey found that only 21% of American adults say that they would have a direct conversation with a parent they know about his or her behavior if they learned that the parent was excessively spanking or physically punishing his or her child. 37% say they'd be unlikely to do it, right? Not likely to, but unlikely to do so. Only 19% of adults say that they'd be very likely to report the parent who is excessively spanking or physically hurting a child to protective services. In fact, 34% say that they would absolutely not do it. Only 36% of adults say in this study that they would call 911 or report to the police if they saw a stranger excessively spanking or physically punishing a child. The survey also reported on the reasons Americans gave for being reluctant to speak up, to break a silence. 6 out of 10 said because they were concerned for the welfare of the child, it might make it worse for them. A full 30% say that the reason is they don't believe it's any of their business. It isn't easy to speak up for those who don't have a voice. It isn't easy to speak up for those who don't have a voice, even if it is our own children. In tomorrow morning's Torah reading, Parshat Shmini, we will find in chapter 10 of the book of Leviticus the story of the 2 children of Aaron who, entering into the Holy of Holies, were taken. A fire emerged from heaven, Vateitzei ish eish me'ad me shamayim, that a heavenly fire descends and takes Nadav and Avihu, the 2 eldest sons of Aaron. And in verse 3, the Torah will tell us, in the immediate aftermath of that traumatic loss of Aaron's 2 eldest sons, Vayomer Moshe el Aharon hu asher diber Adonai lemor. Moses said to his older brother Aaron, this is what God meant when God said, through those near to me, Bikrovai ekadesh, v'al pnei kol ha'am ekaved. God says in Moses' words that those near to me I will show myself holy and gain glory before all of the people. And then Aaron, Vayidom Aharon. And Aaron was silent. Aaron's silence has been understood by many commentators to be a noble silence. In the face of unspeakable loss and grief, Aaron's silence is a powerful testimonial to the inadequacy of language to make sense of the senseless. Aaron's noble silence is often contrasted with Moses' loquaciousness and anxiety in navigating this tragic event. Moshe can't stop talking. The one who has no words can't stop throwing them out to his brother. But yet, Aaron's silence can also be read in contrast to the moral voice of Abraham in the story of Sodom and Amorah, where Abraham has the audacity to argue with God, henceforth setting a Jewish precedent for speaking truth to power. Aaron doesn't shout or speak out against this horrific injustice. Vayidom Aharon, Aaron doesn't say a thing. Aaron, the one who is the mouthpiece for his younger brother Moshe, can't find his words, even to protest on behalf of his own children. Vayidom Aharon, Aaron's silence in the text is deafening. Could it be that he, like so many of us, was afraid to argue or name what he had actually seen? Afraid that God might harm his 2 remaining boys? Perhaps his silence, like ours, in the face of corporal punishment, is acquiescence, is some admittance of complicity and guilt. Perhaps Aaron believes that it isn't wrong because, after all, we learn from these experiences, don't we? Perhaps Vayidom Aharon, Aaron is silent because one isn't really allowed to question a received tradition or to be disobedient. Maybe, lastly, Aaron is silent because somewhere in his own heart-mind, he believed that there are cultural differences in the way people relate to the divine that allows God off the hook, as it were, for such an egregious and abusive activity. What's remarkable is, as we turn to Shabbat of the Child this weekend, is that we know for a fact that the highest rate of victimization in this country for children is of children who are in their first year of life. We know that the victimization rate for girls of child abuse is 9.4 per 1,000, and that for boys, 8 per 1,000. We know that sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, and neglect is pervasive. That even within this very Zoom room, in a room populated by so many of you on the coastlines and those of us who have been exposed to all kinds of progressive parenting styles and approaches, even in this room, around the Zoom, 1 in 3 women and 1 in 5 men will have had a violation of some kind, a sexual violation, a sexual abuse experience, and our children too. Vayidom. And we've been silent. Silent in the sense that as a community, the Jewish community pays almost no attention to these numbers in grand scale. Vayidom, we are silent in the face of these realities because on some level, we don't know how to talk about it. We don't know how to name it. We don't know how to enter it. It scares us. Vayidom. And we fall into silence. Not only is this prevalence of silence a phenomena that we find around excesses, right? The excess of spanking, that term is over and over. It's used when polled, excessive spanking, excessive corporal punishment. I shudder to think when I remember reading that story from Adrian Peterson and his son. I shudder to think, what if the child had not had bruises? What if the child had not had huge welts on his leg? Things that had not been noticed, if he had not crossed the line, as it were, into the legal element of child abuse, where the law defends children. What if it had just been a normal everyday spanking, a normal everyday corporal punishment? What then, Vayidom? In fact, in the wake of Peterson's, in the event that took place with Adrian Peterson, in the wake of that, there was a study done, an ABC News poll on corporal punishment. It showed that 65% of Americans approve of spanking children in the home. 65%. Peterson himself went on to say, he admitted that 4 years after he had been indicted, he admitted that when other methods like taking away the electronics of the children, putting them into a timeout, or having them do wall squats, when those don't work, he still uses a belt to punish his children. And at times, he uses a switch, which he once said he would stop using. He understood that what he did to his young son was a mistake, but he doesn't believe that what he now does is called child abuse. It wasn't my intention, he said, to do that, referencing the cuts and the bruises that he caused, but it happened. What is at the core of this confusion, not only about why we're silent about the egregious elements of child abuse, but even about the simple clarity, the moral and ethical clarity that even to raise a hand to a child is criminal? What could possibly be the source of this moral and ethical confusion and ambiguity amongst us? Or the certainty of the 65% of Americans who think that still spanking and potching is okay? One shudders when one reads in the codes of the conservative movement, no greater a person, right? No greater person than the great Rabbi Elliot Dorff, one of the great halachic decisors of our generation, a man of impeccable ethics and morality, who writes in a responsum of the conservative, progressive, liberal Jewish movement, conservative Judaism, writes these words. He writes that although it's true that we no longer believe that it is okay to beat children, one must distinguish, he says, between discipline of a child and child abuse. It is arguable whether striking a child is ever a good way to discipline that child. But if it is, that would constitute one end of a spectrum and child abuse would be on the other. He then goes on to write, right? This is unbelievable when I read this. We moderns, though, no longer think of children as parents' property to do with as we will, but rather as the parents' blessing and the parents' responsibility to raise into moral, informed, caring, and productive adults. We recognize that hitting a child is usually not the best way to accomplish those ends. But consequently, while we conservative rabbis would acquiesce to a light smack on the buttocks, or even striking the child elsewhere on the body with an open hand, but not punching or pummeling with a fist, only those types of contact that do not produce bleeding or a bruise would be permissible. Just to feel into the craziness of that moral calculus, that a child has fewer rights under the law than animals who are beaten, or adults against whom the raising of a hand, even a slight potch or a smack on any other part of the body, would constitute assault. The most vulnerable, the most impacted, the most formative part of the human race in this country at this moment in history are not protected under the law from those they love the most. This law also applies to schools around this country where corporal punishment is still legal. In fact, there are still many who argue to make paddling legal in various states where you take a paddle to a child to discipline them. Of course, at the heart of this ignorance, this blindness, and our own silence is that all of us, on some level, were born into what Alice Miller called the poisonous pedagogy of for your own good. The notion that to teach our children who are never to be rationalized with, is to treat them as other than fully human. Even in our terminology around psychology, right? There's psychology for adults and developmental psychology for children. We live in an adult-centered universe with ageism and adult-centrism where the children we live with and the children within us have been treated first as chattel, but no longer as chattel, but now less than human. We say things like, oh, they'll forget it. What happens to them when they're young will be forgotten. This is part of the poisonous pedagogy and the willful ignorance, as it were, that we bring into this space. Bahidom. We must cry out. We must break this silence of this deafening silence, this contract of silence. We must cry out for the sake of the children and say, what happens to the children will be remembered. What happens to our youth, they will carry with them into the next generation. There is no greater social agenda than the agenda of raising children with love and with safety and with shelter. There is no greater moral obligation. And to those of us who feel at times as though we can't speak up in the face of someone who says, oh, my husband owns the team that kept that individual on their payroll. When we sit in the silence of, we see what's happening, and we can only imagine if it's happening in public to that child, can you really imagine how horrible it must be for them in silence, when the door is closed, when no one is looking? And so we as Americans, we as human beings must begin to say no. Never again. Never again. Because we as a people, this week, we spoke to the powerful aspect of memory. To remember as a Jew is to say that mattered. To remember the children is to say that those children's lives matter. That I will stand with you. I will march with you. That we won't just let one synagogue in this country have one Shabbat of the Child, but that every synagogue in every city around this country will one day say together, we say no to corporal punishment, to raising a hand to a child. That if we say that we wouldn't want that as part of our domestic relationship between spouses, if you can do it to your wife, your husband, your spouse, if you can't do it to them, you can't do it to your child. If you can't raise your hand to your spouse, you can't raise your hand to your child. And I know that it's not easy and it's very complicated, but no cultural differences and no cultural beliefs can deny the reality of what we know to be evidentiarily true. Children's brains, children's hearts and minds are affected by violence, and they do remember. They remember their whole lives through. I remember when I was, and I shared this with this community and I shared it publicly in a number of places, that as a survivor myself, I came late to the memories that I had experienced as a young man, some as early as 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. I remember watching the great late John Bradshaw, whose work so formed me and so inspired me and healed me. Watched him on PBS in a special called Homecoming. And John played this song that haunted me for years and that buoyed me. I went back to find it. And it went something like this. Baby, see me crying. Mama, make me smile. Hold me in your arms a little while. And the powerful refrain of the song was, try to remember the child that once was you. But remember, the child will remember. But remember, the child will remember his whole lifetime through. The child will remember. I pray that we find the strength to enact into law into this country and in every country a law that makes it illegal to raise a hand against a child. I pray that we, this community and communities like ours, do the training and the hard work that will allow us and give us the strength to be able to identify child abuse, to make a safe space for children to feel safe enough to tell us their experience and to be heard. I pray that we act for the sake of the children. It is upon us.
Hi! We have some very important questions to ask you.
It's about my safety. And mine.
And mine. So please pay close attention.
In the places you send me to spend my time.
The places you trust will keep me safe.
I'm talking about my school.
My shul.
My community center.
My camp.
Do you know if they have a really good child protection policy?
Do they have windows in every classroom door?
Are my teachers allowed to drive me in their cars?
Or contact me on social media.
What about my camp counselors?
Or my youth leaders? Will they talk to me about healthy relationships?
Do they know what kind of touch is okay and what kind of touch is never okay? Does it matter if the touch is between me and a friend? Or me and an adult?
Is everybody trained to identify signs of abuse?
Who can I tell if I'm being sexually abused?
Or bullied? Or neglected? Or harassed?
Will they believe me? Will they follow the law and report what I've told them? Will they know when they need to bring in an expert?
I know they want to keep me safe.
But not every organization has the right tools to protect me properly.
So help them out.
Get your organization to register for the Elaine You campaign.
Where they can access critical resources to help protect me.
We're talking to you.
Yeah, you.
The grown-ups.
Because it's your responsibility.
Elenu, safeguarding our children.
Tell your organization to sign up now. I'm counting on you to keep me safe. What are you waiting for? Go!
One day, 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 one day. Aleinu, it is upon us to bring that one day. One day, one day, one day. V'nemar, Haya Adonai, Lemelech al kol haaretz, Bayom hahu, Yeh Adonai echad, Ushemo, Ushemo, for our children, Echad. Into the sacred space, this shelter that is and can hold all of this. We invite those who are in mourning tonight, whether in the first week or the first month or the first year, those of you who have your sight, to please rise as we place the names of loved ones on the screen in front of you, as well as placing it, please, into the chat area. We lift up this evening in memory Michael Fricano Jr., Deborah Fricano's father, Ingrid Hecker, Marnie Wetzler, Joost Lundberg, the Duke of Edinburgh, Randy Baker, David Rabinowitz, Norman Siselski, Shmuel Eliezer ben Moshe Mordechai, Henrietta Walzer, Lily Zamet and Julia Eisenberg, Shirley Marlowe, Eric Press, Iona Miller, and Sandy Rosenthal. We remember tonight Ruti Lev, Rebecca Pat Cohen, Gerald Bregman, Daisy Menkes Klein, Marianne Goldstick and Jay Goldstein, Seymour Brodsky, Vera Goldman, Rafael Rios Gallardo, Seth Lesnow, Myrna Feldman, Sarah Melina Siegman, Evelyn Goodman, Arthur Siegel, Jason Andrew Brodsky, Dr. Norman Crane, Solomon Marenberg, Cecilia Romo, Stuart Fred Fight, David Winograd and David Silverstein, Harriet Bloom, Shirley Siegel, Benjamin Wolf Telushkin, Beth Baldridge, we remember Devorah Stoll and Lee Brox, Jean Foreman Shore, Ellsworth Levine and Erwin Bardash, Meyer Oaks and Robert Blau, Gabriel Gottlieb, who was murdered in domestic violence, Marie Barnard, Mr. Elsie Pops Floyd, Lynn Blacker, Shirley Gatstick, Grace Tanina Denemark, Rabbi Raphael Goldstein, Hamagid Yitzchak Buxbaum, Brady Rifkin, Laurette Nierenberg, Barry Kosky, Betty Levin, Nancy Traeger, Rabbi Dr. Henry Dicker, Robert Gerald Cohen, Angela Lamb Margolis, Leslie Robert Axelrod, Charlotte Figman, Seymour Borstein, Stuart Saville, Tavis Sparks, Annie Esty, Maristin Nanyan, Hank Wasselman, Kimberly Hall, Gilda Koppelman Rieger, Mary Armstrong Memes, Arthur Adler, Mitchell Jonathan Schwartz, Michi Baba, George Lefferts, Suzanne Kachko's mother, Rita Jean Epstein Kachko, Mrs. Bessie Walker, your other mom, Suzanne, whose your side it is as well. Shmuel Eliezer Ben Mesh Mordechai, Irving Bloom, Rabbi David Cooper, Reverend Robert Grates, Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs, Mark Evan Beitman, Helena Lone, Zati, Anne-Marie Zangara, Zati Munajat, Charlie Dixon, Ido Shefi, DMX. We bring into our space as well Bernice Gottlieb and Felisa Kita-Gerodsky. We also place Earl Simmons and the yard of Juan Pereira into the space, Aranka Eckstein, as well as all of those children who have died this year from maltreatment, over 1,800 of them. We rise in memoriam and in honoring of all of those who have been brought into the space as well. If it is your custom to stand with the mourners, please rise. Yiskadal v'yiskadash shmei Rabbah. Be'alma divrach Yerusei v'yamlich malchusei b'chayechonu v'yomechonu v'chayei dechol beis Yisrael ba'agala u'izman koriv imiru amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mivorach le'alam l'mei almaya. Yisbarach v'yishtabach v'yispa'ar v'yisromam v'yisnasei. V'yisadar v'yisaleh v'yisalal shmei dekutsha brichu. Le'ilam min kol birchasa v'shirasa. Tush b'chasa v'nechem masa da'miran v'oma v'imiru amen. Yehi shlom Rabba min shemaya v'chayim alinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imiru amen. Oseh shalom v'imromal. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel. And let us all say, Amen. Dear friends, into this hallowed space, into this truthful space, a space that we hope has not activated anyone in any way, but is also activating all of us for the sake of the children on this Shabbat of the child to do more. And that is exactly what we will do. This coming weekend, both after services immediately following this, in about 10 or so minutes, we'll be doing a sing-along to raise our spirits, to raise our voices, and to practice being with one another as we not only speak of child maltreatment, but also celebrating the beauty of children, the beauty of their gifts to us. That will be immediately following this service tonight, and then tomorrow morning, the open book with Rabbi Koleresis and myself, and then the service itself, leading into tomorrow evening's panel discussion with Michelle Esrick and the remarkable panel with Daryl Hammond and Dr. Bessel Vanderkalk, and then all of the activities on Sunday. We hope that in the coming months, as we actually wade our way into policy and ways to make our country safer for children, that we'll have many, many more things to speak about. So tomorrow and throughout the weekend, we hope that you'll be with us. We have a couple. We have a blessing for Svirat Omer, which again is the time period that we're in between Passover and Shavuot, and so Chazan Shechter will lead us in the counting of the Omer.
Hashem yichud, kutabrichu shlitei, enani muchan u'mezuman, lekayei mitzvah aseh, shel sfirat ha'omer, shel sfirat ha'omer, sheva shabbatot, timimot tiyena. Shava Shabbatot Timimot tiyena Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ruach haolam Asher kitshanu B'mitzvotav v'tzivanu Al sfirat ha'omer Al sfirat ha'omer היום 13 ימים שהם שבוע אחת ושישה ימים לעומר יסוד שבגבורה.
Into this cup of blessing. May the blessing of the Lord be with you. May the blessing of the Lord be with you. May the blessing of the Lord be with you. May the blessing of the Lord be with you. May the blessing of the Lord be with you. May the blessing of the Lord be with you. May the blessing of the Lord be with you. May the blessing of the Lord be with you. May the blessing of the Lord be with you. May the blessing of the Lord be with you. May the blessing of the Lord be with you. May the blessing of the Lord be with you. May the blessing of the Lord be with you. May the blessing of the Lord be with you. May the blessing of the Lord be with you. May the blessing of the Lord be with you. May the blessing of the Lord be with you. May the blessing of the Lord be with you. May the blessing of the Lord be with you. May the blessing of the Lord be with you. May the blessing of the Lord be with you. May the blessing of the Lord be with you. May the blessing of the Lord be with you. May the blessing of the Lord be with you. May the blessing of the So many thank yous to this remarkable team. First and foremost, to Rabbi Janice Elster, who's been holding the entirety of the Shabbat of the Child with such grace and attention to detail. Thank you to you, Rabbi Elster. Thank you to the remarkable moderation team, Aliza Rivka today and Michele. Without the two of you, we wouldn't have made it to today's service. My computer crashed about an hour before the service. All kinds of things happen on the way to a service. Into this couple blessing, the remarkable Romemu team, all of them, those who are behind the scenes during the week and during Shabbat, from the Jeffrey Kahn, our executive director, all the way through each and every member of that team. And on this particular cup of blessing, we want to thank the generous funding of Gil Mandelsies and Capitolis. It is you, Gil, wherever you are, who were really the visionary behind having a Shabbat of the Child last year. And it's your partnership together with the partnership of Charuv, Sacred Spaces, Mehalev, that has made this such a powerful part of the Romemu annual programmatic offerings to our community and beyond. A big thank you to Carla Friend for your Chazak video with our children, the children of Romemu. Thank you so much, Carla. Into this cup of blessing, right? Our partner, Sacred Spaces, Machon Charuv, and the team. Beautiful. Ready, everyone? Have a cup of blessing with you. Vayer vayivoker yom hashishi, vayichudu hashamayim v'haaretz, v'chol tzivam, vayichal Elohim hayom hashvi, melachto asher asa, vayishbos bayom hashvi'i mikol melachto asher asa, vayivarech Elohim es yom hashvi'i, vayikadesh oso. כי בשבס מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. סברי חבריי חזן שכטר.
Chaim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kadsho, b'yava uvratzon, chilanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit. כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת עם כל העמים, בשבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
Amen. As we leave with the voices of our children, Chazak, Chazak, V'nit Chazek, may we be strong. Shabbat of the Child is ultimately a Shabbat about the human rights of a child. This is a national human rights issue. It's a national public health issue, and we must be strong. Chazak, Chazak, everyone. See you in the sing-along.
Thank you, teachers. We will carry on and forever be our guides. Chazak, chazak, beni chazek. Chazak, chazak, beni chazek. Chazak, chazak, beni chazek.
Come on, Judy, you have to sing with us. Chazak. Ronnie and Denise and Jessica. Shabbat shalom. Chazak.